This is Football at 4.
Josh Henry filling in for Mike Gill on a happy hour Friday on 97.3 ESPN. As the smoke is finally clearing from the Wednesday press conference with Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni, what is next for the Eagles? We'll look at that. Also, NFL Championship Sunday previews with NFL insider Adam Caplan. InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, download wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget about the Inside the Birds YouTube channel as well. And, of course, the Patreon page for even deeper insights. Adam Caplan is back with us now here on a Friday edition of the show. Adam, welcome in. How you doing today?
Josh, I hope you're doing well. I'm okay. So, Andrew DeCecco and I did a show this morning. Andrew filled in for Mosher, and we had a fun show. We broke down a lot. It was a full-hour show, actually a little bit over an hour, and we covered a lot of subjects. And the big one, look, we did discuss the press conference Wednesday, which is certainly interesting. No doubt everybody has their own opinions on that, but what we really want to get into is what's next. I mean, it's one thing that press conference is fun. It's great to dissect it. We're done with that. We've moved on. What we're doing is what's going to happen in the near future. That's what everybody wants to know. People want to know about Vic Fangio, how he's going to fit in. What are they going to do to help him? They need to do a lot. And look, the Vic Fangio thing is interesting. You know, we know that they tried to hire him last year. It didn't work out. But the real story is they actually had interest in him before they hired Jonathan Gannon. We were told, this is going back, obviously, 3 years ago, but we were told they looked into Fangio after he got fired by Denver, and he was not looking to coach then, so they moved on. But the bottom line is obviously it worked out with Jonathan Gannon last year. He moved on. He's now the Cardinals head coach, and they got their man, who was a consultant for them during the playoffs. But he was around the club occasionally. We were told during the season he was there quite a bit, and they really like him. Nick developed a good relationship with him, and Howie Roseman's developed a really good relationship with him. Vic Fangio's from the Scranton area. Moshe had a note that he wanted to come back home, and he's back home. You would have to wonder, Josh, will this be his last coaching job? If it works out, you would think it would be.
So we've had coaches, Adam, who have run the Vic Fangio, their version of his scheme, right? Sean Desai, Jonathan Gannon. But this is the man himself. As you know, as Kyle Long was jokingly saying on the Green Lake podcast, he's the Don. He's the originator of this. So what are the realistic expectations of Vic Fangio running a defense in Philadelphia?
I mean, if you really follow the NFL closely and the Dolphins last season, when they were healthy, they were a top 3 defense. The end of the season down 6 starters, and it was tough. I mean, they got blown out at Baltimore. In fact, I'll never forget this. So we were doing our pregame show with myself, Moshe, Greg Cosell, and Jason Avant, and we had to turn our picks in. I said, guys, I'm changing my pick. As soon as Xavier Howard was a surprise inactive, remember Jalen Ramsey was not back from his meniscus surgery. Like, I'm changing my pick. I'm going to go with the Eagles here because I don't see how the Dolphins can cover anybody. And that's what happened. They're one of their safeties, Javon Holland, was hurt. He had bad knee problems the second half of the season. He missed some time. Both starting outside linebackers are the best pass rushers. They signed 3 veteran guys at the end of their career. That didn't work out well. They just ran out of players, and that's why the season kind of collapsed on their defense. But so what are you going to get? You're going to get a defense that's about coverage and scheme. They're going to be in the lower 10 of blitzing, folks. They're not going to blitz with Vic. That's not what he does. And this has kind of been his MO for decades. Now, he adjusted his defense over the years because of the NFL rules, which said that it's much harder to cover in the back end because of the rules. Like after 5 yards, you can't. The league doesn't tolerate contact. So he did a lot of disguise, and the post-snap disguise is what it's all about with Fangio. So you want to know what you're going to expect. Josh, that's it. Post-snap disguise, some pre-snap movement, and that's really where he wins. And now you have to give him players. The back 7 of the Eagles was poor. Okay, it was not good enough. And that now remember, Josh, they have till September to get this straightened out. Everybody wants instant gratification. They want them to win free agency. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, the Eagles will get involved in free agency. They always do. But the bottom line is they have to do a better job and get better players. Howie Roseman's got to get him better players. And one thing about Howie, which is really positive, is he listens to his coaches. If they feel like they need players, well, by golly, Vic will get them.
Yeah, and of course, don't forget Howie Roseman in the past, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Ronald Darby. They're just some of the guys that he acquired in August. So it's got several months ahead of us before we, as you and Jeff like to say, the first 53 is not the real 53 when the season starts. So flipping to the other side, Adam, offensive coordinator, that still needs to be filled. Some interesting names: Kellen Moore, Cliff Kingsbury. What do they run, and how do they potentially fit the fresh ideas that Nick Sirianni is looking for?
Yeah, that was interesting when he said that, Josh. Okay, that's something he's never talked about before. But look, Kellen Moore is a guy they know. Howie Roseman knows. They interviewed him 3 years ago. He was one of the head coaching candidates. They know they did their homework on his offense. He runs a spread. The third receiver will be involved. I know that for a fact. That's the way he thinks, and that's something Nick really failed on, getting past the second receiver. They got to do that. A pretty aggressive play caller. It's about the pass game with him. Same with Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury, his first couple years at tight end was not involved at all. Then he started to become more conventional with final 2 years before he got fired. Kellen Moore, by the way, is still under contract with the Chargers, but because Jim Harbaugh is coming in, and he may bring in Greg Roman or somebody else, they're allowing him to interview. So he's got a bunch of interviews set up. What we reported, Jeff Mosher had a good note that Kingsbury, from what we understand, the interview went well, and there's definitely a possibility of a second interview. Now, other teams are interested in him. We'll see where it goes. So, and look, they interviewed Gerard Johnson earlier this week, who's the quarterback's coach for the Texans. They have other West Coast offensive guys on their list. They're not going to get Zach Robinson. We know they had interest in him, but Zach Robinson's going to go with Raheem Morris most likely to Atlanta. They worked together with the Rams. That was his coaching source told me that was his guy. So we expect that to happen. But they're now, if they wait, Josh, until seeing what happens with the Niners this week, if the Niners lose, they could look into Clint Kubiak, who's more or less their passing game coordinator for the 49ers, and he was once the play caller OC for the Vikings.
Adam, let's spin it forward to NFL Championship Sunday. NFL insider Adam Caplan joining us for Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. Inside the Birds pod dropped again this morning. Adam and Andrew DeCecco breaking things down. Adam, NFL Championship Sunday, it involves actually a coach not on the same level as Nick Sirianni, but similar to Sirianni, doesn't call the plays. John Harbaugh and the Ravens. Big story this week. Mark Andrews is back.
Yeah, he was activated today. He suffered a significant high ankle sprain with ligament damage over 2 months ago on a Thursday night game. It was definitely a primetime game. It was either Thursday or Sunday. I can't remember. Anyway, he's activated. He and Isaiah likely will be the tight ends. They play a lot of what we call 12 personnel, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, so that'll really help them. Likely scored last week when he reached over to the defender's back and made a great catch. And look, with Kansas City, their offensive line's beat up. Pacheco was clear to play. They're not going to have Joe Tooney, their outstanding guard. He's out with a pectoral strain. That would worry me a little bit. And then, look, the big thing for this game, and Josh, is could Lamar Jackson finally make it? He hasn't been great in the playoffs, but could he finally get to a Super Bowl? And it is interesting, John Harbaugh, the time that he won it, he went against his brother in 2012, and that's when Joe Flacco made that unbelievable run, Super Bowl MVP, one of the best playoff performances in NFL history. So maybe Lamar could get that done. And by the way, it's going to rain. We should mention for those who are looking to wager on it. Right now, the hour-by-hour forecast would project rain the entire game. Look, they've played through the rain before. You saw last week. By the way, the over-under total is 44.5. Now, I think that's a pretty accurate one because the Chiefs are not super high scoring anymore, and the Ravens arguably have the NFL's best defense.
And really quick on that game as well, let's not forget that John Harbaugh is from the Andy Reid coaching tree, so it's another Andy Reid disciple versus the mentor.
Yeah, that to me is really cool. I like that. And John, again, is not a play caller. What he did is he asked the Eagles front office, and obviously Andy Reid, they met about this. John knew to become a head coach, he changed things up. So this last year, I think, he was their DB's coach, and then he became the Ravens head coach, as you know. And I mean, he's had quite the run here. He might be a Hall of Famer someday. That's how good of a head coach he is.
On the other side of the bracket, Detroit travels to San Francisco. Adam, let's start with the Lions. They got some injury concerns.
Yeah, first things first. No rain in Santa Clara like we saw last week. Don't have to worry about that. Khalif Raymond's not going to play. He was their punt returner. This will be his third straight game that he's going to miss. Their left guard, Jonah Jackson, won't play due to that sprained knee. And by the way, you know who's going to start for them? Keoti Awushika. He is going to start. He was with the Eagles as an undrafted free agent last year. He was a left tackle at the University of Buffalo who was moved to guard with the Eagles and a backup tackle. And now he's starting. He filled in last week. He probably will start this week. I mean, that's a tough thing to do for guys at undrafted free agent that's new to this position. That would worry me a little bit. Raymond's their punt returner, really good player. There's their fourth receiver. He's a guy who's got good short area quickness. Niners, Deebo Samuel's trending towards being able to play. This is a different injury than the one that he had earlier this season. But if he gets clear, that'll certainly help them. This is a fun game. Boy, what a story the Lions have been to make it this far. Look, both games look good. The Lions have a legit shot. I'm surprised the line is 7 here. This is a little bit higher than I expected.
You mentioned about the story of the Lions getting here. Talk about their turnaround real quick, Adam, before we let you go, because, I mean, this team was a laughing stock for years, and now they're in the NFC Championship game.
Hadn't won a playoff game in 30 years, won the division. It's just quite the run here. Jared Goff has revived his career. Now, one thing I do worry about for them in the future is, what if Ben Johnson leaves? What if he gets the Commander's job, which he should get? It's not a lock. I know they're looking at other people. But if he is hired, that, to me, is a problem. That would worry me a little bit. And Jared Goff is just signed through next season. They probably will redo his deal. What a great story he's been. And Dan Campbell is phenomenal. All the people that laughed at him about the biting kneecaps and all that stuff, he's getting the last laugh.
Absolutely, he is. NFL insider Adam Caplan at Caplan NFL on the Twitter X platform. Inside the Birds podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Inside the Birds on YouTube, InsideTheBirds.com. And he joins us every Friday here for Football at 4. Adam, great stuff today.
Thank you.